In an industry that's quick to say you can't,
we're here to say you can.
Helping musicians succeed,
No matter where they are.
Unsigned artists matter.
Why isn't anyone talking about this stuff?
There must be a reason.
the Afton podcast.
By musicians.
For musicians.
Welcome to the 4th episode of the Afton Show's podcast with Carl and Ryan. This week, we're going to talk about why advanced ticket sales are so crucial to your music career, and we're going to tackle some of the most common objections and excuses that musicians and artists like you hear from your fans about why they aren't coming to your show. And we're also going to address some of the excuses that you make about why you can't sell tickets. But before we get into all of the tips and whatnot, what we really want to point out is the simple fact that ticket sales is so crucial to the industry that you are in. The music industry relies heavily on tickets. In fact, it's probably one of the most important things, but no one talks about selling tickets. Why isn't anybody talking about this? It's such a huge thing. Ryan, what do you think?
You're right, Carl. Nobody talks about this. We are the ticket selling guys. We're going to own it. It's good for you. Selling tickets has so many benefits, and learning to do it well is going to get you the success you're looking for. For too long in our industry, people are shunning ticket selling, right? Like, not everybody, but some people hate selling tickets, or they refuse to sell tickets, or they think tickets is this dirty word. And I think that's why nobody in our industry is really talking about selling tickets, because it's kind of became this dirty word no one wants to really touch or mention. All of a sudden, venues and promoters and booking agents and record labels are kind of just, all right, if you guys don't want to learn how to sell tickets, and I'll just not talk about it. Nobody is teaching bands how to sell tickets. Nobody is teaching rappers how to sell tickets. And that is really hurting their goals. Everyone talks about how to get a record deal, right? How to get licensing deals, how to tour on a budget, how to use social media. But no one is really talking about this nitty gritty guerrilla marketing and the skills you need to sell a lot of tickets to the shows you play.
I mean, let's be honest. What artist is going to succeed? The one that refuses to ever sell tickets? Who we hear from? You know, we talk to musicians that are either working with us or not working with us. And, you know, you hear it on both sides. Well, you're the promoter. I shouldn't have to sell tickets. I'm just a musician. I'm supposed to worry about that. I shouldn't have to do that. That's fine, because the guy that's going to, really be successful, the guy that people are going to look up to, is the artist and the rapper and the musician and the band that learns how to sell 100 tickets to every single show they play.
That's right. I mean, let's think about this. If you're a promoter or a venue or you're a national touring artist, do you want to book a local artist that says, I don't sell tickets? I never learned how.
Right.
I don't like to do it, and I refuse to do it. Or are you going to book the local artist that says, I'm awesome at selling tickets. I sell 100 tickets every time I play, and I would be happy to make this show the biggest show we've ever had. So you got to be thinking about it not as what's in it for me and what's in it for the other party, right? And that's why with Afton, we really call this a co-promotion. We do a lot of things for our artists, and in return, we want the artists to also promote their show. Because at the end of the day, you have to think about this. You are the best person that can promote your band or your rap group.
Absolutely.
You're going to care the most. You're going to have passion about your art and your music more than anyone. You could hire a PR person or a booking agent, and you can spend all your money on trying to get a team together to propel your career. But none of them, no matter how much money you're paying them, care as much about your success as you. And so that's one of the big things we want to go over today. Is we see so many local artists that are dependent artists. They're looking for other people to do the work for them. They're looking for kind of the easy way out.
Yep.
And what we want to teach you is you can be independent. You can learn the skills to get the success you want. And it's so easy. It's so easy, and it's not a mystery. And it just takes a little bit of hustle, and we want you to know that.
Absolutely. And the thing is, we're probably already in this new era of the music industry. We've probably been in it for at least a decade, if not more. And there's a lot of attributes you can discuss as to what that is. Is it the internet? Is it the SoundCloud revolution? Is it blah, 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 blah? But let's be honest, there is a new era. And in this new era, you don't need a booking agent. You don't need a record label. Those monopolies like Live Nation and Ticketmaster and the big labels and all of the big names that you hear and see everywhere, they don't want you to succeed. They don't, because if you succeed, that means that you're taking away from them. The stuff that we're doing and that we're going to teach you is going to go against that, because we're really the disruptors of the industry, and we're in an era of disruption. What we're trying to do is create a better world, a better model, a better way of doing it. And part of that is to make you, the listener, the band, the rapper, the person out there trying to sell tickets, into that person that can do it for yourself.
That's right. And the best blend is when local artists are doing things for themselves. When you're selling 100 tickets, 200 tickets, 500 tickets to shows you play, and you have the skills and the marketing honed in, that is when the big players, the record labels and booking agents, come to you and notice you. Mm-hmm. But now you're bringing so much to the table that they can't really take one over on you. They can't give you a bad deal. That's the big thing. In our music industry, local artists are the ground floor. It's where everyone gets their start. And I know it's hard, and I know that sometimes it feels like everything is against you. But the good news is you can learn to do these things yourself. And the biggest thing that we want to teach you is you can do it. You're capable of doing it. And you will be so satisfied and so happy when you have built this huge fan base and a record label comes to you and you say, I want to negotiate this deal because I don't really need you, right?
Right.
And don't get us wrong, the record labels, the booking agents, the big tours, all that is necessary in our industry. But what is equally as necessary is for local musicians to really teach themselves and learn how to be sufficient and independent so that there's a good balance between the big guys and the small artists entering that system. One thing that Carl said that was a really good point is disruption. Afton is a disruptor. Us coming in and saying, you can sell 20 tickets easily, you can sell 50 to 100 tickets easily, and you should be doing that, is a disruption, right? It makes the venue owners and the promoters, it makes the entire industry better, but it also helps you not get taken advantage of.
Exactly.
And that's important to us. As musicians ourselves, we had a lot of shows where you're just kind of at the mercy of whatever the person says who's booking you. And, you know, if an artist comes to me and says, hey, Ryan, I sell 150 tickets every show. Your pay scale is good, but I want to bump at it because I'm at that level of my career. We talk to them, right? It's like, they have negotiating power. Now, an artist comes to us and says, I don't sell any tickets. Let's negotiate. They don't have as much, to bring to the table. Yeah. So the best thing, I like it when I get an email from a band that says, I sell 150 tickets. I want an advanced pay scale from what you offer starting out artists. I say, great. You guys have earned it. You draw well. If you're going to sell 150 tickets, I'll give you an extra bump on the back end, and let's make this happen.
Speaking of disruptions, one of the most prominent disruptors in America right now is Uber. We like to think of ourselves as a sort of Uber to the music industry. It was all about empowering people. And that's really the era that we're in now, is the disruption is coming from within. It's coming from below. It's coming from the people, not the top up. So think about that in terms of your music career. It could be you that decides to do something that's so crazy and out there that completely disrupts the entire industry. And what we're trying to do is help you do that with us. And I think that, we're ripe for a new era because there's a ton of music out there. There's more music than there probably ever has been. People say, oh, the music industry's dead. It's over. It's only a matter of time. That's ridiculous. There's more music than ever before. There's more genres. There's more labels. There's more bands. There's more rappers. There's more everything. And it's because the ability to do it is out there. I mean, we're doing this podcast with a computer and some technology that 10 years ago didn't exist. So you got to think about it. For every day that passes, we're a lot better off than we were before. And as a musician, you're a lot better off now than you were 20 years ago or even 50 years ago. That was the music era of then. We are in the music industry now, and that involves you, the musician, making something happen for yourself, because in this day and age, it doesn't take a whole lot to be successful. And what we'd like to see is a whole revolution with musicians to kind of embrace their own success and freedom. And when we do that, we all win.
That's right. I was talking to a band out of Cleveland the other day, and they told me, man, I wish bands got paid more by venues. In the last 30 years, it seems like band pay for most venues has stagnated or gone down.
Yep.
And, I kind of thought about that, and I was like, is there truth to that? What's the reasoning for it? And I started thinking, historically in the last 10, 20, 30 years, local artists have been drawing less people. than they used to, right? I talk to venue owners that say I don't book local artists, or I only book 3% of the local artists in my market because most of them don't draw. All of a sudden I'm hearing from venue owners and promoters, local artists don't draw, they're not dependable. And that's what this is all about, is we teach you to do these things, and we start this revolution of local artists that are being independent and learning the skills to sell their tickets and draw a lot of people to the shows. And all of a sudden, if this is happening on a mass scale, every venue owner starts paying more money to the bands or the rappers, and every promoter now starts seeing, man, local musicians are putting in the work. They're just doing these big things, and now I'm paying these local musicians as much as I pay touring artists.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, we've worked with touring artists. We've heard stories from promoters of touring artists. There are touring acts that are on signed record labels that you think they've made it, and they are drawing 50 people when they go on tour.
Yeah.
So here's the good news. This is what I think is the good news. As a local artist, if you're drawing 50, 100, or 200 people, you are basically beating what most touring bands that hit your city draw.
Oh yeah.
And I don't,
absolutely.
it's such an attainable goal, right? Let's say there's a rapper in our city and they are selling 1,000 tickets. It's their hometown. They've been working hard at the things we've been telling them. They're selling 1,000 tickets. They're going to be making on those shows, if the tickets are $12, let's say, they're going to be making $6,000 a show.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If they do that once a month, they just made around $80,000 that year. Now, what do you think? The skills that they got great at and the things that made them get that fan base of 1,000 people, those are going to translate everywhere.
Oh yeah.
They're going to sell more t-shirts. They're going to sell more CDs. They're going to sell themselves to the record label, and they can duplicate what they did in their home city into the surrounding cities. So it all starts small, right? It all starts with selling a ticket, selling 20 tickets. But what you're really building is kind of this muscle memory of, I care about my music. I put in the work. I am passionate about promoting myself, and it snowballs. That's the greatest thing. I talked to this other artist from New York City. He told me, I didn't think, Ryan, that I would be able to sell any tickets. And you sent me these tips, and I just sold 13 in a day.
Yes.
And I told him, I said, you're doing a great job. And 7 more, you got 20. You got the $50 guarantee.
Right.
He replied back and he said, I'm going to draw more people than I ever thought was possible.
Nice.
And that's why we're doing this podcast. That's why we have this company.
Absolutely.
We want you to do more than you thought was possible. And we want to give you that hope and that confidence that you can do it.
And the thing about that is, when you do something beyond what you expected, that starts to snowball. Right? So say you didn't think you could sell 20 tickets, and then you learn some stuff, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I tried these things. I sold 20 tickets. Now your expectations have changed and your momentum is building. So now 20 becomes 50, 50 becomes 100, et cetera, until you get your max output, if you will, for whatever city you're in. And then you can grow from there. And growth is a beautiful thing, because all it takes is a little bit of effort and a little bit of trying, because without the effort, it's never going to happen. You know, you could plant a seed in the ground, and if you never water it, it's not going to grow. But you throw a little water on it and watch what happens. It grows.
Okay, so here's kind of our main topic for tonight. You're following our tips and our ticket selling strategies, and you're putting in the hustle. You care about your music. You care about the shows you play. You want to get people out. And this is what happened to me back in the day. I would book a show. I would put up on my social media, I'm playing this show. I'd put my posters all over town. I would tell my friends, and I'd wait, and no tickets would sell. No one's buying tickets. And all of a sudden I start to get this feeling, what did I do wrong? I did everything I know how to do, right? It's almost like I did it all. It didn't work. The show's in 20 days. What do I do? Well, here's the good news, guys. You don't need to worry. This is a really easy problem to solve. People procrastinate. Everyone procrastinates. You try to get your friend to go to your Facebook event invite and go to your birthday party, and they're not even going to say yes. They're going to put it off and put it off. So what I want you to remember is, don't take these things personally. Your fans are busy. Your friends are busy. They want to come to your show. They just need to understand why they need to buy a ticket. And that's basically your job, right?
Right.
If you don't take it upon yourself to turn your procrastinating fans into actually coming to your show, you're the one that suffers. If there's no one in the crowd, you're going to feel bad. I don't want you to feel like that. So here's what I learned after a lot of shows in my early days, where I would do all the promotion I thought was possible and no one would show up. The main reason fans aren't buying yet is twofold. One, they don't understand how and why they benefit from buying an advance ticket. That's number one.
Yep.
The second thing, they don't understand how and why it helps you that they buy a ticket.
Which is a huge thing to think about. Just let that sink in for a second. They don't understand how and why it helps you if they don't buy a ticket. That's huge.
Let's sit back and think about that for a second. If you haven't explained why it helps the fan and why it helps you for them to buy a ticket, then there's no reason for them to buy a ticket.
Right.
They're thinking, I'm going to go to the show. It's in my head. It's not on my calendar. I haven't paid money for it, but I plan to go. There's no reason to go online. There's no reason to buy a cash ticket. Well, the big problem there is, as we all know, people that promise to pay at the door do not show up.
Yep.
We found about 80% of the people that promise that they will be at the door and pay the door price don't show up. Basically, letting fans wait, the longer and longer they wait to buy, the less their ticket sales help you. That's the first point.
Right.
Because if someone buys a ticket 40 days out versus 2 days out, that's an extra 38 days where they have felt the money leave their pocket. They've put it on their iCal and they're telling their friends. You know, their friends are like, hey, you want to go to this party? No, I'm going to the show.
Right.
In 25 days, I'm going to the show. Do you want to come with me? The power of word of mouth is really lost if you're not selling advance tickets early. And that's a big thing you want to let fans know. The longer you wait to buy, the less it helps me, the more likely you are not to come. I want to have the biggest show I've ever had. So here's a few things that I learned along the way when I was playing shows, because I was in the same situation. I would explain to my fans, I'd say, hey, if you buy right now, it saves you money, which is huge. Like that alone should be what gets them to go.
That's why tickets in advance are cheaper, because it's an automatic incentive. Like, hey, do you want to save $5, $3, whatever? I mean, it might not sound like a lot, but I mean, I love saving $1 anytime I go grocery shopping. If I get a coupon and get 50 cents off, I do that, man. It's silly.
That's a good point. I mean, how many of our family and friends and how many of us clip the $1 coupon and go buy that product at the grocery store because you saved $1? So here's the second thing. You got to let the fans know this. They save even more money if there is a promo code discount on top of the advance ticket price. So it depends what shows you guys play. If you're playing a show, you should ask the promoter or venue, are there extra discounts or promo codes on the advanced tickets?
Right.
And a lot of times they're not. And that's one of the big reasons in our My Afton platform. It was very important to me to say, hey, we need to build some promo codes so that fans aren't just saving $2 or $3 off the door price, but now they're saving an additional $1 to $2 or more on the promo codes.
And the good thing about that is, for you, the artist, you're not losing any money by using that promo code. It doesn't get knocked off of your sales.
And that's a really good point, Carl. For Afton shows, we eat that. What you want to make sure, if you are booked through a venue or another promoter, you do want to check if these discount promo codes are going to affect your pay.
Right.
Because I have seen venues say, yeah, you can do a $3 off promo code for my show, and then you get paid $3 less per ticket, or they try to split the difference with you. So that's a big thing to ask. This also goes for Afton shows. If your fans buy tickets ASAP, you need to let them know that they ensure that you get to perform at a good time slot and that your time slot gets locked in ahead of time so you can tell them what time you're actually going to play. That's one of the perks we have. We want to be fair to the artists that draw the most fans, and so they get to pick what time slots they get. They get the best time slots of the night. And you can also qualify for a longer set if you sell a lot of tickets for our shows. So that kind of raises a good point too. If you're not playing an Afton show, you should speak up for yourself. You should say, hey, promoter or venue, I plan to sell 50 tickets. So when I get to 30 or 50 tickets, I want to negotiate that I get a longer set. I want to negotiate that I get a better time slot. I mean, how many times, Carl, have you played shows? I played so many shows where I drew 50 to 100 fans, and the bands that had been around longer than me or were friends with the venue owner got the prime time slots, and I was stuck playing the first slot. So if you're playing an Afton show, we got you covered on that stuff. If you sell tickets, you get exactly what you want. If you're not playing an Afton show, I highly recommend you use some negotiation power. If you've learned these tactics and you're selling tickets and you're going to sell tickets, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to bands that say, I was booked by a promoter that didn't ask me to sell tickets. So I told the promoter, I said, if I sell 50 tickets, can I get more pay, longer set, time slot ahead of time? And not always, but the promoters will sometimes agree to that. So kind of fight for yourself. If you know you're going to draw a lot of people, you should be rewarded with that. The best part is your fans are your friends and family and people that know you and they like your music. And what that means is they want to help you. Here's some other things that you got to relate to the fans as far as what's in it for you and how they help their friend, the artist, when they buy tickets. The biggest thing, though, that used to sell tickets for me was my fans want to help me, right? Like everyone wants to make an impact on somebody. And what I started finding was when you really start explaining things to your fans the right way, they just come out of the woodwork and they just start wanting to help in any way possible. So here's a couple of things I used to do. One, I used to let them know that, hey, if I sell tickets and you buy them in advance, one, that's going to help me draw more people than I ever have. I had a ticket goal. I'd say I want to draw 100 people this show. Yeah. And I can't do that unless my hardcore diehard fans get tickets right away, right? That's like my base, right? I want to know in the next 7 days how many tickets I got in the bag. I got 40, right? And then I can go from there. And the longer that you wait, the more I'm kind of up in the air with what I'm going to draw. The second thing is, especially for Afton shows, you get a locked in time slot as soon as you sell 20 tickets. You just got to tell your fans, hey, if you 20 fans buy this week, then 50 days out from the show, I know the exact time slot I'm playing. Yep. I'll text you and let you know. You also earn a lot of extra perks with MyAfton. So I don't know if you guys have checked out myafton.com/perks. Basically, again, I kind of want to set up some kind of incentive. I used to sell so many tickets for promoters, and all I would get is a small paycheck. And if that, right? As the company grew, we started thinking of more and more ways that we can reward our artists. So at 5 tickets, we have a Bands in Town perk. At 10 tickets, we run Facebook ads, and we pay for them to 4,000 to 10,000 people in your city. Depends on the size of your city. And then once you get 20 tickets sold, you're getting the $50 guarantee. We refund your shipping of thermal tickets if you guys ordered those. And you get your locked in time slot. And really the whole goal is just to set your sights on a little more promo. It's like when you get to 5 tickets, great. What's the next perk at 10? When you get to 20 tickets, 15 more tickets gets you a big pay jump. I wanted to kind of let artists know that every little thing you're doing, every 5 or 10 tickets you're selling is a good progress toward your goals. And I really like the perks because they remind you, it's like these little things you get along the way.
I've never seen it, to be perfectly honest. I haven't seen the promo code discounts on tickets. I've opened for nationally touring acts. The only promo code that exists is the pre-sale one. You see the common one. And I tell you what, those promo codes are amazing for fans because as a guy who used to work in radio for a good chunk of my life, I watched that promo code take effect. So you'd send it out there and you'd get the numbers back and you'd be like, wow, it's like a 70% rate in terms of who responded to it. It's crazy. People do want to save money. So remember that. We offer those to all the bands that are playing our shows. So don't forget that. That's not something that you're going to find in a lot of places.
So here's a couple other things I used to do. I used to let my fans know that me as an artist, I need to develop relationships with venues and promoters and keep those relationships. So I used to tell my friends and fans, hey, you guys need to buy tickets now if you're going, because the more fans I draw, the more shows I get. Yes. I used to have promoters that would be at my shows just in the crowd, and they'd come up to me and say, you guys just drew 100 fans. I want to book you for all these shows. You got to remember, your fans can help you by buying tickets because then you have a big crowd. And when you have a big crowd, anyone who's important in the audience, including the venue owner and the promoter, is going to not only take note, they're going to email themselves, book these guys again. They're awesome.
It's hard to think, how is the fan getting helped out? Well, I'll tell you this. How many shows have I been to back in the day, right? How many times have you told this story? Oh, I saw this band before they were big. That's one of the biggest incentives. There's always that gamble when you see a local show that one of those bands is going to be the next big whatever. The fan wants to be that person. And if you give them that opportunity, they're going to take it and they'll be there the entire time. And what's great about fans is when you create them, unless you do something absolutely awful to them personally, you keep them for the life of your band. The fans don't go anywhere. There's people that still want to see my old bands play. And I get messages all the time like, when are you guys going to do a reunion? Those fans are still there. They haven't gone anywhere. So when you get the fans early on, they stay there the life of your band, the life of your career. So remember that. That's a huge thing.
That's a good point. So here's another thing I used to let my fans know. So if you guys are playing an Afton show, which I hope you are, remember you make more money way more money the more tickets you sell. We have big pay jumps when you sell 20 tickets, 35 tickets, 50 tickets, 75, and 100 tickets. What I used to do with my fans, I used to share with them, hey, I worked out a deal with this promoter that I get double pay if I hit 50 fans out. Because guys, your fans want to hear you. They want to hear how they can help. And if you tell me that you're going to get double pay for getting 20 more tickets sold, the first thing that goes through my head, if you're my friend, is, oh, how many can I sell for you? I have like 6 friends. I could bring them in my Suburban. We could carpool together, get some drinks beforehand, make a night out of it. And I just helped you reach a third of your goal.
Right.
And then the last one, and this is pretty important, you're going to prove to everyone else's fans at the show that you are buzzworthy and that you matter and that you have a following if you draw well.
Yep.
I cannot tell you how many times I played shows with bands that drew nobody, and everyone in the room knew it because everyone was at the back of the bar. They were playing and no one cared. I was the only guy in the front of the stage because I thought they were good. You got to remember, when the other artists' fans, you have one chance to make a good first impression on them.
Yeah.
And if the other artists combined draw 150 to 200 people and you take the stage and everyone's kind of looking around like, any of you guys know who this band is? I've never heard them. It's going to ripple through the crowd. So I used to be sound checking, setting up my gear, tuning my guitar, and I'd look out and there'd be 50 or 60 of my fans and friends like huddled at the front of the stage, cheering and clapping and yelling my band name.
That's awesome.
And everyone else's fans were kind of like, what is going on? You know, is this like a touring band? Is this something special?
Yeah.
So remember, you have one chance to make a good first impression on everyone else's fans in the room, and you're going to make the best impression if you bring your own fans. I got to tell you, you got to trust me on this. I've done this. Once your friends and family and your fans know how huge the impact their advanced sales make on every show you play, they're going to be happy to save money, and they're going to be happy to help you. And this is just one example. I mean, let's reel it back to what we said before, Carl. If your fan doesn't know why to buy an advance ticket and they don't know why it helps them and why it helps you, they're not going to buy.
Right.
But the list we just went over, if you convey half of that stuff, most fans are going to be like, all right, I'll stop you right there. I'm just going to buy on my phone
right.
or give you some cash. I didn't really realize the gravity of this. And that's just one more thing. I mean, there's all these myths in the music industry, and there's all these misconceptions of ticket selling is hard. And, oh my gosh, sometimes I ask bands to sell 20 tickets or a rapper to sell 20 tickets. And with the response they give me, it's like I asked them to sell 10,000 tickets.
Right. Or to buy a house.
Right. And it's like,
crazy.
Whoa, this shouldn't be as hard as you're making it sound. And that's kind of a good point me and Carl have been talking about this week, is sometimes we are our own worst enemy.
Yeah. Sometimes
you are what's holding you back. And with the excuses we hear sometimes from artists, it's sad to see. I kind of hear this hopelessness, and I feel the artist's pain of, no one in my city knows who I am. No one cares about me. My friends don't support me. Nobody buys tickets. I can't do any of this on my own. And you just got to bring it back to what we're saying. If you don't explain why, if you don't explain how they benefit, if you don't do the work, if you don't put in the hustle, if you don't learn how to sell these tickets the right way, then it's hard, right? If I go to you and I say, I'm playing a show, it's $12, that's not going to sell a ticket.
Right.
Just remember your approach, the way you do these things, the way you talk to your fans, it all matters. And once you get it, guys, like once you open your eyes and you try this and you get confidence, you'll start saying, this is easy. I can sell tickets to anyone. I can meet someone in the line at a coffee shop and talk to them for 5 minutes and they will buy a ticket from me. And that's when everyone in our music industry is going to benefit, is when everyone starts to put in the work that gets results.
And the thing is, and I always go back to this point, if you had the creativity and the desire to create music in the first place, first of all, you are special. I know a lot of people like, oh, there's a ton of guitar players. There's a ton of rappers out there. Like, there's a lot of jokes about, how many people are out there doing this and whatever. But in all honesty, it takes a very specific talent to be a musician, to be a rapper, to be a singer, to be whatever it is that you're doing musically. And to create the music, to play the music, to perform it, you have to practice. You have to do all of this stuff. And to think that you're going to do all of that and then just give up when it comes down to the real nitty-gritty of getting people to hear that music. I mean, it's crazy to think that you wouldn't do everything you can do to promote your music, whether it's get the music out there in recorded form or live form. The fact that you're making the music, you should be so excited to share that.
If you guys like these tips and strategies, I want you to use them. I want you to email us at podcast@myafton.com. I want to hear your story, and we'll go on the podcast and go over your story. We'll write a blog article about your story. I want to hear if you're in a hopeless situation. I want to hear if you've already been killing it. I want to hear what new strategies you found better. Me and Carl are musicians. We're creative guys, but I mean, there's thousands of you out there, and I think your ideas could really add to the community to share with everyone.
That about does it for this week's episode of the Afton Show's podcast. Drop us an email at podcast@myafton.com. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as we enjoyed doing it. Make sure to check back next week at myafton.com for another episode with more advice, tips, crazy stories, and a whole lot more for you, the musician and artist trying to make your way through the music industry. And until then, keep it loud and proud. I am Carl.
And I'm Ryan.
Later.